Hello, and welcome to the final of 3 trainings in this series of videos for parents of children with autism. The title of this video is Sensory Needs, a guide for parents of children with autism. My name is Merissa, and I am currently a graduate student in the school psychology program at the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse.
My name is Michaela, and I am currently an undergraduate psychology major at the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse.
Before we begin, if you are participating in the 2016 research study, I ask that you pause the video and follow the first link in the email to answer a few questionnaires prior to viewing this video. Once you have completed those, please return to the video. Welcome back. These videos were created for parents of children with autism. However, they may be useful to other family members and family friends, teachers, paraprofessionals, community members, and others interested in learning more about autism and how they can support children with autism. The first training gave information about behavior and using an autism lens to understand your child's needs, and the second video gave information about home safety. The current video will provide information about the sensory needs of children with autism.
In the first video, Behavior and the Autism Lens, we talked about the 8 key principles of an autism lens. The 6th principle was about sensory needs. We discussed how children with autism may experience the senses differently than neurotypical people. Children with autism may have heightened or dulled senses and may be bothered by some sounds, sights, and feelings while not noticing others that one would expect them to notice. Sensory processing is how the brain takes in all sensory input. There are 7 sensory systems with 7 different pathways to the brain. We will be talking about each one of those systems. These are the 7 sensory systems that receive sensory input: visual, auditory, taste or oral, tactile or touch, olfactory or smell, proprioceptive, and vestibular. Typically, we think of the 5 senses: hearing, sight, touch, smell, and taste. However, vestibular and proprioceptive input, as well as tactile input, are called the power sensations due to the fact that they are the foundation for sensory integration and sensory processing skills. The 7 sensory systems provide input into the brain. The brain then processes that information and produces a response. Children with autism often process information from some of these sensory systems differently than typically developing children. This varies between children with autism in that some children have significant processing differences in 1 or 2 areas, and others have differences in many sensory systems.
Self-regulation is the ability to monitor and control our own behavior, emotions, or thoughts, and is how we maintain a functional state of alertness throughout the day. Self-regulation impacts mood, behavior, attention, and emotions. Self-regulation requires an adequate amount of various types of sensory input throughout the day. Dysregulation is the state of the nervous system when it is disorganized and out of sorts. Children with sensory differences quite often have a very difficult time with self-regulation for a variety of reasons. Adapting to the environment and the constantly changing needs and demands on the nervous system require very complex processing in the brain, which is often taken for granted. Let's take a look at what sensory dysregulation might look like through the eyes of a child with autism.
naughty. I'm autistic, and I just get too much information.
Now let's break this down and talk about the different sensory experiences we saw in this video.
A child with visual sensory needs may be hypersensitive or overstimulated, or hyposensitive or understimulated to lights, words, colors, patterns, or anything else they see. Lights that are of normal brightness for neurotypical children may be seen as painfully bright for a child with autism, or on the other hand, they may be seen as not bright enough. A child who is understimulated visually may be attracted to flashing lights, spinning objects, and other objects in constant motion. This is why some children with autism stare at ceiling fans or like to watch the credits at the end of a TV show or movie. They may also be attracted to patterned or bright-colored objects. A child who is overstimulated, on the other hand, may prefer objects with less movement and duller colors. They may be easily overwhelmed by their daily surroundings or by the demand to make eye contact with others. In the video, the child was distracted by details in his environment, such as the man's untied shoes, the flash of the camera, and the brightly colored balloons.
So what can you do? For understimulated children, there are a variety of toys and objects available that light up or have flashing lights that can sustain the child's attention. Bubbles and stand timers can sometimes also help stimulate them. For overstimulated children, it may be necessary to lower the brightness of your lights at home to accommodate their needs. In places outside of the home, where the lighting is out of the parent's control, sunglasses or caps with visors can help. Children may need to turn away from a person who is talking to them, especially if that person is moving. Be aware of the reason for this, and don't try to pressure the child to make eye contact. Watching fish swim in an aquarium or watching a lava lamp can also provide soothing input for an overstimulated child.
A child with auditory sensory needs may be hyper or hyposensitive to sounds or noises. The hypersensitive child may be unable to filter out irrelevant sounds and frequencies, such as high pitches and deep tones. Oftentimes, hypersensitive children, or children who are overstimulated by sounds, will cover their ears in a noisy room or when there is a loud noise, such as a fire alarm or a bell. Even a noise that most people don't notice, such as a low hum from an air conditioner, can be unbearable for a child with autism. In the video, the child noticed sounds like the music playing throughout the mall, the coins dropping on the floor, and bags crinkling. These same children may not be bothered by or even notice a loud sound like a pot falling on the floor. Children who have auditory hyposensitivity may talk louder than normal or prefer loud music. They may also hum or sing to themselves.
For understimulated children who prefer more noise, it may help to have a noise machine that can provide constant stimulation through a variety of sounds. For overstimulated children, it may help to have a pair of noise-canceling headphones that they can put on if needed. It may be helpful to bring these headphones along when leaving the house because you never know when your child may be overstimulated by noise. Another idea is to have a quiet room in the house, where the child can go whenever they are feeling stressed or overstimulated by noise. This could even be a portion of their bedroom.
Children with taste or oral sensory needs may have the desire or tendency to either certain foods because they have a certain taste or texture. Other children may seek out strong flavors or put non-food items in their mouth to gain more oral sensory input. Hypersensitive children may prefer to eat bland foods, such as carrots, while hyposensitive children may prefer strong-tasting foods, such as hot sauce. Children with oral hypersensitivity may spit out food that they feel is too strong or that has a different texture. Other children with oral hypersensitivity may simply refuse to eat certain foods at all, while others may even throw food they find aversive. Children who are hyposensitive may chew on their clothes, lick objects or toys, or put non-edible items in their mouths, such as Play-Doh or sand.
One option for helping a young child with autism meet his oral hyposensitivity is with a Chewy, a safe, often silicone object, usually a necklace or a bracelet, that children can chew on to receive the stimulation they are looking for. If the child prefers a material texture, providing something as simple as a clean washcloth or a wristband can help. For older children, consider offering them gum, strong mints, bitter chocolate, or hard candy. For children with oral hypersensitivity who may have aversions to certain food tastes and textures, or who may prefer bland foods, try to accommodate their sensory needs when possible. However, in order to do this, it may be necessary to consult with a nutritionist if there is a chance that the child's food restrictions or preferences may be impacting their overall diet.
The tactile or touch system includes all of your skin as well as the inside of the mouth, nose, and ears. The tactile system is responsible for detecting and processing pain and temperature. Children with a hyposensitive tactile system may touch everything they see. For example, a child might run their hand along the wall as they walk down a hallway. A child with autism may enjoy touching specific materials, such as satin, or they may avoid certain textures, such as wool. Children with a hypersensitive tactile system may try to avoid being touched on certain parts of the body, such as the head, or they may refuse to wear clothes that are tight-fitting or that have seams. Children with autism may also be less affected by weather changes or have a high tolerance for pain than do neurotypical children.
To meet the needs of hyposensitive children, a possible option is to use fidgets and body brushes. It may be helpful to have a variety of different materials and textures that the child can explore using touch. For instance, you could fill a bag with items such as cloth, stones, fleece, feathers, and seashells, and then take that bag along when in the car or in a different place for the child to receive the stimulation they are looking for when needed. For children who have a lower sensitivity to weather and pain, it is important to be extra aware of what the child is wearing when they leave the house. Parents should anticipate their child's physical needs, like getting too cold, since the child may not be able to determine when it is too dangerous not to be wearing a coat or hat. For hypersensitive children, parents can go shopping with their child and allow them to choose clothes and shoes that they find comfortable. Parents can cut off labels and clothes and buy seamless socks to accommodate tactile sensitivities to clothes.
Olfactory input or smells can soothe or excite the nervous system. Smells are a very powerful form of sensory input. Some children have olfactory sensitivity differences. In other words, they are hyper or hyposensitive to smells. Hypersensitive children may try to avoid a person wearing any perfume or cologne. Foods such as onions may be almost unbearable to them. They may refuse to go to places that have strong smells, such as a farm or a pet store, or avoid public restrooms. In addition, they may constantly breathe through their mouth instead of their nose to try and reduce the intake of smells. In the video, the child was likely distracted by the smell of the perfume and could have been bothered by the different smells from the stores they passed throughout the mall. Hyposensitive children, on the other hand, may be constantly seeking olfactory input by smelling new people, toys, or objects. They may not mind strong smells and may possibly even seek them out.
For children with high sensitivity to smells, try to keep the house as scent-free as possible and use non-scented cleaning products, or make sure the scents are tolerable to the child. It may help to have a closed garbage can. If possible, it may also be helpful to select a bedroom for your child on the other side of the house from the kitchen, so that your child has a place to go if he or she dislikes the smell of certain foods cooking. For children who are understimulated and are seeking new smells, parents can carry small soaps, small scented candles, or other small fragrant objects for the child to explore. If the child is old enough, they can do this themselves.
We can think of proprioceptive input as a sense of pressure. It occurs anytime a muscle or a joint is pushed or pulled, even with slight resistance. This can be achieved through almost any movement of the body and is even greater when it involves heavy or hard work. Children who stomp their feet or flap their hands are showing proprioceptive sensitivity. In the video, the child was focusing on his feet as he walked and was moving his fingers in a counting fashion. At the end, he also covered his ears, which could have provided him with that sense of pressure.
Proprioceptive input can be divided into two types: joint traction, a pull or tension placed on any given joint in the body, and joint compression, a push or weight bearing on a joint. Joint traction can be achieved by using a resistance band. stretching or doing yoga, and carrying heavy objects. Joint compression can be achieved by jumping, running, pushing boxes or carts, and climbing activities. In order to nourish proprioceptive input needs, children can benefit from engaging in up and down movements, such as jumping rope or bouncing a ball. Additionally, you can designate a certain area in a room where the child is allowed to stomp their feet or pace. Many children may need deep pressure to help regulate their needs. Deep pressure tends to be the most regulating, calming, organizing, and soothing activity for the nervous system. Deep pressure might come from a weighted blanket, massage, or even just a hug.
The word vestibular refers to our sense of movement and balance. It is the most complex and powerful sensory system and involves many different planes or directions of movement. The word vestibular comes from the fact that there are 3 vestibules within the inner ear which detect all of the different planes of movement and help us determine where our body is in space. These planes and directions of movement include back and forth, side to side, rotary, diagonal, and vertical input. Like with many of the other systems, children can be over or undersensitive to balance and movement sensations. It is important to incorporate all of these planes of movement, but allow rotary input, or spinning, only in controlled doses. Vertical vestibular input, such as bouncing or jumping, is typically the most accepted form of vestibular input and is very regulating and organizing since it also involves a great deal of proprioception. A child who is sensitive to vestibular input might have difficulty coordinating movements of the eyes, have trouble staying seated, and could easily lose their balance when riding a bike or climbing stairs. They might appear to have clumsy behaviors or engage in repetitive actions like mild rocking or swinging. Children with vestibular differences may also spin, twirl, or run around in circles.
Help the child get moving. In order to help him or her receive vestibular input, have them do things like sit on a wiggle cushion or a ball, take movement breaks throughout the day, or jump on a trampoline. Some children react to vestibular input negatively. It may be a good idea to cut back on a child's vestibular input if they show signs of nausea, a headache, flushing skin, or a low-grade fever after such activities. Watch closely for signs of sensory overload, especially if the child is unable to verbally communicate. Ask the child's physical therapist for more information as needed.
Every child is trying to balance the information they're getting through the pressure they're feeling and the way they're moving, as well as what they're seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, and smelling. When the child's brain doesn't process this in an adaptive and cohesive manner, the child may experience sensory disintegration and may demonstrate dysregulated behavior. Sensory integration is a form of occupational therapy in which special exercises are used to strengthen the patient's sense of touch, sense of balance, and sense of where the body and its parts are in space. It appears to be effective for helping patients with movement disorders or severe under or over sensitivity to sensory input.
Children with autism often process information from the sensory systems differently than do typically developing children. They might be more sensitive to certain stimuli, like sights, sounds, or smells, and have reactions based on the way their brain processes the sensory input it receives and their ability to self-regulate. It is important to understand the sensory systems and the way the brain processes that information in order to help your child self-regulate in their environment. Thank you to everyone who participated in the study. We hope you found the 3 videos helpful and wish you luck as you support your child with autism. If you are in the study, please remember to complete the final questionnaires accessible through the link in the email. If you would like to continue learning about sensory needs, the links shown on this slide will take you to various resources you can use.